right there. I wasn't sure if I could even get in there, if it was gated or what the business or company or whatever was that operated that. But so I wanted to look at the parking lot, and luckily the Google car had drove through there, so that told me it was probably accessible. And there I know, look, there's no trees in the way. I can actually see the Capitol, and where I ended up shooting was underneath that tree. So I can move down here. Of course, that isn't a real life view, but that still would give me an idea of what that scene looks like. Of course, I'm shooting with a 400 millimeter lens, so I'm capturing like this much of the scene. So here we are. This is a video Olivia took while we was there. You can see the moon is sort of, but you sometimes have to move yourself. The moon moves with you. So here we are. We did it. So on October 18th, 2021, at approximately 6:43, this happened. All right, so real quick, I'm going to go through this and we'll talk about what we'll do maybe for the workshop tonight. And yeah, we're good. All right, so shooting the foreground. So again, I told you I shoot the foreground setup from the sky. So that could mean a number of things. I might shoot the foreground at blue hour when I have just a little bit of residual light. That's what I've done here. So pros of that is you get very even lighting, low noise image because you can shoot with relatively low ISOs because you do have enough residual light to sort of play with. But you can see it's at least dark enough at that point in the night where you can see cars streaking across the bridge there, right? You can actually, if you look real close, there's even some stars in the sky. Okay, a con to shooting at blue hours is very easy to clip the highlights, especially if you're shooting in the direction of a sunset or a sunrise. It's very easy to clip the horizon line where the trees are. So what I usually do is I'll underexpose pretty dramatically to keep from clipping the trees, and then I can just bring the shadows back in post-processing. So final image again there, foreground again shot at blue hour. Another option for shooting the foreground would be to use lighting. You might use a flashlight, you might use your phone. This particular instance, I didn't plan it this way, but the foreground was lit up by the lights in the observatory parking lot, so that just sort of worked out. Pros to that is you can sort of control what you want to expose, but the con, of course, is you can't, I can't light these mountains way back here in the distance, but, it doesn't really affect that final image much. So again, you've already seen that photo, but the final image there. Again, foreground shot using the lighting from the parking lot. Another option is just using extremely long exposures. That might be 2, 3, 4, 5 minute long exposures for your foreground. This particular foreground I shot using actually a couple of techniques. I shot very, very long exposures, but I also took my phone light and just sort of lit this grass. You can see I didn't get it real even right there, but that's just to get a little bit more of that green grass. I used a couple of combinations. This was shot at Droop Mountain, and then the final image there, that's a tracked Milky Way panorama. Or the moon. This is a pretty cool option. The moon was in the sky that night, and so I wasn't actually going to shoot the sky until like, I forget, maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, but the moon was in the sky earlier than that, so I shot the foreground while the moon was in the sky, and then I shot the foreground later, and then that's the final image again, foreground shot by moonlight. Or you can just leave the foreground dark. That's what I did for a long time when I first got started. I just, you can sort of see a little bit of the mountains and the river coming down through here, a little bit of light. And that's a great place to start. Just find you a couple pine trees and shoot, the Milky Way behind it, and there's nothing at all wrong with that. So post-processing, we went through some post-processing, but I'm real quick go through this. And this is just one process. You go through and edit the raws real quick. This is in Lightroom, and then I don't always stack in Photoshop. Sometimes I use APP or something else, the Starry Sky Stacker or something like that, just according to what works. I did a terrible job aligning the stars, but I just run through this real quick to sort of show you how I process the final image. And as bad as I align the stars, that still actually brought out a lot of detail stacking those. And so then I'm going to edit the stack. Get my color right, or at least where I want it. Save my sky. Then here's my foreground. What I do with the foreground is I lay the sky on top of it, then I add a crop, and then I like feel that so that you don't, sometimes you get weird gradients if the sky's sort of chopped off where you shot it. And then I can just do the sky replacement. And that was a pretty easy process, and not always the case, but that particular image wasn't too bad. So then there's the final image. So our original plan was to go and do a workshop. Is anybody in here signed up for the workshop tonight with me? How many of you guys have done, how many that signed up for the workshop have done landscape astrophotography? Okay, so everybody, okay? Or a few of them. So we're going to meet in here at 8 o'clock. Just meet in here, okay? It looks like clouds is going to get us, okay? So I figured instead of like going out somewhere and just not being able to do anything, I thought that I would set up. Has anybody in here ever done a tracked Milky Way panorama? Anybody that's going to be in my? No. Okay, so I thought it'd be a cool idea to just talk about doing that, okay? And so I'm going to actually, I'll set up my rig in here, and I'll go through, I'm going to bring my laptop in here, go through the whole process and how I come up with a plan for that. It's a little bit more extensive than even what I got up here. And I'll show you how to figure the angles and the whole thing, okay? And then if the clouds break, we'll just walk out here and maybe try to get a shot somewhere, okay? Is that cool? Everybody? So if you're in a workshop, I thought, man, I hate to take everybody out and then we're just sitting there looking at, clouds. So I figured we'll set up in here and it'll be open discussion. It'll be very casual. So, whatever we want to talk about, we'll talk about. But that's my subject at hand is track Milky Way panoramas because there's not too many people talking about that. So cool. Deal.
Sounds great.
Sounds great. All right. Anybody have any questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I know you talked about foreground lighting. Have you ever done any light painting where you use different color lights to lighten some of your foregrounds in the building, and a different color of light in the building, a different color of light, or the trees with a different color and light in the foreground as well?
I've never used different colors, no, but that sounds very interesting. But I've definitely done light painting. Probably my go-to method for shooting the foreground now is shooting at true nighttime. And I usually will use a little bit of soft light to just light the foreground that's real close.
Right, it doesn't take much because you're taking a long time.
Right, yeah. And so, what I'll do is I usually just take I got a soft light, like a softener on the front of it, and I'll just turn it off again and just sort of like this a couple times during the exposure. And it's enough to get what I want. But no, I've never used colors, but willing to try. Yeah. Any other questions? Good.
Yeah, you said that the photo pals only gives the ground elevation. How do you deal with trees and buildings that you don't know the height of?
Well, that's a good question. And like we looked at when I was showing you, I dropped the little guy on the street. You just get the street view on Google Earth. That you got to remember, that's a great question because it doesn't account for. Sometimes the tree might be there if it's a real prominent tree, but usually it's not. And so several times I've been like, oh, this is a perfect plan right here. Like this is going to work. And then I get there and then there's a tree in my way. Okay. Yeah. So short of actually standing there and seeing it, then you won't know about the tree until you're looking at it. So anybody else? You girls in the back, any questions? All right, guys, thank you so much.
So just to let everybody know, our next two presenters will be doing their presentations over Zoom. And I've got our next two presenters will be presenting over Zoom. So what I'm going to do is once they join the meeting, I will have them up on the screen. I've got a webcam set up front so they can kind of see at least part of the audience at this point. So our first presenter, we'll look at this information here, is Craig Scott. And Craig is out of Utah, very well-known astrophotographer. We'll take this back with me and go ahead.